She's only allowed to leave the house by my consent. She's not allowed to go anywhere that I don't want her to go, or with anyone I don't want her to go with.
Could come across as very controlling.
Hello. Funny thing came into my head today, and I just thought I'd share it with you. Imagine if I lived in a country where I could create rules for my partner, and she would have to comply with them. And we know there are countries like that. But I want you to picture this scene. So I have this woman, and she's only allowed to leave the house by my consent.
Thank God I'm not your partner, Robert. That's all I can say. You're very controlling. Thank God this isn't your resume for a dating agency, Robert. It's bloody ridiculous. Old school. So, Robert, you like to play mind games. You like to manipulate people's videos that they put up for others to see on the internet, but you edit them to make them sound the way you want them to sound. You manipulate them. Why don't you put them up in their entirety, in their full format? You shouldn't believe everything you read and see, Robert.
I'm putting a challenge out there to all you so-called gun dog trainers. I'm not interested in pets. Keep your pets. Right, get your eye contact for the right reason. Right? I'm interested in the real stuff. Getting your hands, getting in there and getting dirty. Right? Real gun dog trainers. You watch Ian Openshaw, a man who goes out and trains dogs. Does he wear all the best clothes? No. Sometimes he turns up and he looks quite scruffy, like Erlington used to. Why? Because they're not bothered about that, they're bothered about training. We get out there and we train. We don't walk around with the latest clothing, the latest fashion. It's not that, it's what you got on the end of the lead, pal, that matters. It's what you got on the end of the lead. A scruffy old slip lead and an old canvas dummy can train a dog. Everybody wants all the gimmicks, all the gadgets. I think women have brought all this into the sport. Next they'll be bringing vibrators and saying that's what a dog needs in its mouth. A throbbing vibrator. Right? At the end of the day, you do what you want to do. But if you think you're fantastic and you're better than everyone and you're on the internet telling everybody this, put your money where your mouth is. Bring out your videos. Go and get yourself a GoPro. Strap it on, girls. Strap it on and show us what you can do. Trainers. So us obedience trainers, us real gun dog trainers, have had enough. We've had enough of you pampered pet people telling us what to do. You so-called gun dog trainers who treat train, great, get on with it. But put some videos up and really show us what you can do. Because for once, someone's making a stand. Someone's coming into your world and saying, look at the dogs. Now you match that.
I'd share it with you. Imagine if I lived in a country where I could create rules for my partner and she would have to comply with them. And we know there are countries like that. But I want you to picture this scene. So I have this woman and she's only allowed to leave the house by my consent. She's not allowed to go anywhere that I don't want her to go or with anyone I don't want her to go with. And the rest of the time, she has to stay at home until I decide that she can go out. The only time she's going to get to go out is if I go out with her. She can go out in my company, but she can only go out in my company. And ideally, she has to walk beside me, or maybe even just slightly behind me. Imagine if I did that. But then imagine if within that, if I decided she wasn't walking where I wanted her to walk, she thought she had more freedom than I actually wanted her to have, I could restrain her so that she would have to stay beside me or behind me. I could physically restrain her to prevent her from going any further forward than I want her to go and acting like she's independent, which I don't want. So I could do that. Then imagine when we get home, I decide what she's allowed to eat. I decide what shape I want her to be and I decide what she can eat. And she can only eat what I want her to eat and when I want her to eat it. Some of you are probably already starting to get a bit annoyed with this scenario, but imagine that I could decide. And even if we went out, it would still be down to me to decide what she could have, how much of it, and when. She doesn't get a decision on that. All of those things are down to me. Then we get on to the subject of children, and I decide I don't want to have a child, and I don't want her to have a child. So she doesn't get a say. I'm going to have her sterilised and make sure that she never has children because I don't want them. And again, she doesn't get a say. She's going to have a hysterectomy and like it, because that's what I deem we're going to have. She doesn't get a choice. Imagine this. The funny thing is, I could do all of those things to my dog, and I still get to call myself positive only and force free. If I did that to a person, you'd want me castrated, and rightly so. But if I do it to my dog, I can still call myself positive only and force free. I'm just not sure how that works, but hey, maybe it's just me.